Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has failed to form a ruling coalition, deepening the regime's political crisis. With the midnight deadline expired, President Reuven Rivlin has 3 days to task Netanyahu's rivals to form a coalition. Yair Lapid from the Yesh Atid party is expected to receive that mandate. The centrist party placed second in Netanyahu's Likud in March elections, which was Israel's fourth inconclusive vote in 2 years. Netanyahu is the regime's longest-serving premier. He's embroiled in several corruption scandals. Joining us now from New York is Yisrael David Weiss, Associate Director of Nitrai Karta International. For more on the story, always a pleasure to have you on Press TV. Your thoughts on this election chaos taking place, the cabinet chaos over there in occupied territories?
I just heard about also the news from Syria that you just reported on, and again, we always reiterate that this is a movement, an enterprise, the Zionist state of Israel, that will never have a successful conclusion. The concept of creating this state is purely against the Jewish religion and against our leaders who lived in the Palestine all throughout the hundreds of years, and with the ratification of the State of Israel by the United Nations, was opposed as by the chief rabbi of Palestine, nothing to be confused with the Zionist rabbinate and their chief rabbi, which is a farce. But he stated, in our name, we furthermore wish to express our definite opposition to a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. All this chaos, and whether it's Benjamin Netanyahu, this nuanced differences between his party or the next one that will take his place, is just a question of who will be leading this rogue, this criminal enterprise. It's really, in our humble view, and what the Torah would state, is that, as God said, why are you rebelling against me? It will not be successful. They keep on trying to create this type of leadership and that, and this government that. They are rebelling against the Torah that states that you shall not kill, you shall not steal. They're occupying a land of the Palestinians, which is a direct rebellion against God. And the whole concept of making a Jewish state is a farce. It's against the creation of the state is against the laws of the Torah that states we shall not have. Since the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago, we are forbidden to have even 1 inch, 1 centimeter of a Jewish sovereignty, and we've been opposed to this from day one. And my colleagues in Palestine and in Al-Quds are being presently brutally beaten. Just last week, they broke into the houses of sick people, old people, arrested people. Our people are making. Our rabbi even put out of the Eid Charedis, the God-fearing leadership of the community that has a chief rabbi, nothing again to be confused with the Israeli chief rabbi, put out a statement in Hebrew and in the Old Hebrew, not the Zionist Ivrit, and in Arabic and in English, stating our strong opposition to what the settlers went in and were attacking the Palestinians, the Arab populace there, and the opposition to this whole enterprise, to the whole Zionist state. Now, Netanyahu was just another, just a figurehead of this regime. It won't change much, in our opinion, who is at the leadership of this criminal entity. It's just clearly they haven't stopped since day one to oppress the Palestinians and the Jewish community, the religious community that is being brutally beaten, arrested, and assassinated, actually. We've been standing from day one in the streets and are attacked. We have tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands around the world, in Jerusalem, in the United States, in New York, standing and demonstrating. The leadership from day one, as you can see, go over the bare heads, supposedly the head of a Jewish state, Ben Gurion and his henchmen. And it's just a continuation. To one side, and the ones to the left or to the right. At the end of the day, it's an occupation that is against the Torah, and that we as Jews have been opposing vociferously and with all our strength, and we will continue to do so and pray for the free Palestine And now it's coming Al Quds, as you know, this Friday, Al Quds Day, and we are broadcasting this where we can and standing in demonstration and solidarity with the people of Iran and the people of Palestine to let the world hear that the occupation in its essence, in the concept of the Zionist state, is unacceptable. And not according to the Jewish religion is it acceptable. They simply hijacked and used God, the Star of David, in the name Judaism and Israel. Let that be known. And again, so I wouldn't be too hopeful about the removal of Netanyahu, and that will be another. We're not naysayers, but it's simply, it goes on. The state goes on. But it will, with God's help, one day end, and we hope that it will end speedily and peacefully, so that we can once again live together, Jews and the Arabs, Jews and Muslims, because this is not a religious conflict. You're not anti-Semitic in your opposition to this occupation, and it has nothing to do with a religious issue, and the world does not hear the truth. It's being suppressed. In fact, our Facebook page has just this last week been cut off because being that we speak anti-Zionism of our Jewish religion, and they have the audacity to say that it's anti-Semitic, and they just simply cut it off. And they're trying to render us speechless and our voice stifled. We will stand up and we plead with everybody to that this is outrage of taking the Jewish community, where we have in New York, we have throughout the world, in London, in Montreal, in Canada, and throughout the world, and in Jerusalem, and Al Quds, the heart of the religious community is anti-Zionist. We've had demonstrations where we put up Palestinian flags. We put up on the walls now when it was their celebration of their so-called Independence Day. We had people sackcloths and wearing and on the walls Palestinian flags. They cannot accept this. They do not want the world to hear that the truth that undermines their legitimacy. But it has to be heard, and now is an opportunity when Netanyahu is flailing that maybe the world could be convinced, could be their minds opened, that the very large Jewish community that is living in the United States and right across from Manhattan and Brooklyn, that is living throughout the world, invariably, the more the religious, the more anti-Zionist they are, and that we, because we are Jews, we oppose this occupation. It's against our Torah. It's not a Jewish state, and that the at the Islamic Republic of Iran should also cease and desist, because they are also ones who are very careful in differentiating between Judaism, the religion, and Zionism and the state of Israel. And we are very thankful for that and appreciative of this, and the Jewish community there that lives proudly being Jews, and yet they have no problem, and yet so the Zionist state sees this as a definite threat to them because of the clarity in the differentiation between Zionism and Judaism. So we have to continue with this.
Thank you, Rabbi. Once again, you always humble us with the you have very passionate sentiments there, and you back it up with facts. Your message, and it's always a pleasure to have you on the program. Do stay safe. Bless you, and thank you much for joining us.